What's going on, Niner fam? It is Peter Lucas. This is the Niner Fanatic Podcast, and happy belated 4th to everybody out there. Hope you guys had a great time with your family and friends, or just your friends, or just your kids, or whoever you had a good time with. Hopefully, you had a good time. Hopefully, you got to shoot off some fireworks. I know that we did. We almost had a unfortunate explosion, which is another story for another day. But like I said, thank you for tuning in. It is the Niner Fanatic Podcast. We're on Twitter. We're on YouTube. We are on Twitch. And after the show, if you don't feel like listening today, you can always catch the audio version on wherever you get your audio podcasts. But before we get into these rankings today, we just got to hit the music.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I'd like to know,
are you ready for start time?
And once again, it is Peter Lucas. This is the Niner Fanatic Podcast. Make sure you give the video a like. Make sure that you give it a subscribe. Make sure that you hit the bell so you get the notifications for when I go live. And yeah, we're going to enjoy the rest of this weekend. I know I'm off from work. Hopefully everybody out there is too. But yeah, rankings. That's the name of the show today. It's rankings. You can't go on any kind of social media. You can't watch any show on TV. You can't watch anything on YouTube without hearing about rankings. Where is your favorite team ranked in PFF? Where is it ranked in ESPN? Where is it ranked on Fox News? Who's Colin Cowherd ranking your favorite quarterback? Well, everybody's got a ranking, and at this time of the year, that's really when we're talking about rankings because there's literally nothing to talk about. That's really what it comes down to, is that we have nothing better to do than rank everything before the game has even been played. And that's really what rankings are about. What's going on in my guy, Jason Captain, my captain, Talofa Faithful. Hopefully I said that right. But yeah, appreciate you coming through, fam. And as always, but rankings. I look at, there's just been the last couple of days, there's been just tons of takes and posts about rankings. And this team feels disrespected. The fans feel disrespected because they don't like Purdy, or they ranked him low, or whatever the case is. So we're going to go over a few of these rankings and talk about, is there any validity to them, or is this blatant propaganda built to get us to talk about it? So we're going to start with, I wanted to talk about first, which one did I want to talk about? So, but the 49ers before we get into the rankings, 49ers are always in the mix of all the rankings. Why is that? Why does everybody think that the 49ers are always in the mix for every single type of ranking? From quarterback rankings to running back room rankings to defensive rankings to offensive line rankings and everybody's got to put the 49ers in their mouth at all times. Why do we think that is? I will give you really one guess because that's all it should take. And it really comes down to the fact that the 49ers, we are, and I mean, pause, but we are thick in these streets. There is tons of 49er fans everywhere. We travel. We take over other people's stadiums. The 49er fans are just, we roll deep wherever. And it only makes sense to mention the 49ers with whatever ranking you want to mention, because that's for sure going to get you some clicks. That's for sure going to get you some views. And That's really what it comes down to. That's all these got. That's all these content creators and different media outlets care about is they just want you to tune in and they want you to argue and they want you to dispute whether their list was accurate or their list was even valid. But I look at some of these rankings and I just want to talk about some of the rankings that I saw. And I want to start with before we once again, before we get into those, well, I guess it does. It is kind of a story about rankings, but Emmanuel Sanders went on K Adams' show. I believe it was today, and they were talking about PFF ranking Brock Purdy number 13 out of all the quarterbacks. Now, for 49er fans, we 13th is low. And what's up? Jason says the faithful are underrated when it comes to best fan. I mean, it's I don't even think it's a question. I think the 49ers are easily the best the best fan base. Like I mean it's at least the most active. At the very least, they're the most active. Like I mean we've got the most content creators. We've got I think we probably have the most fans out of anybody out there. I know that I think the Cowboys fans would say something different, but I don't know. 49ers are pretty close. And but when we think about like what Kay Adams and Emmanuel Sanders were talking about today, as far as Brock Purdy being ranked 13th, I mean, if you really look at it all depends on how you feel about who was ranked above them. But at the same time, I'm not even going to look at the list. I don't even care. The fact that he was ranked 13th, I think is silly. The man was in the Super Bowl. Not only was, and does that mean anything? Because you can have a game manager and game managers can make the Super Bowl. I get it. But at the same time, that's not what Brock Purdy set a franchise record for San Francisco 49ers, the team that has if not the GOAT, then the second GOAT in Joe Montana. And then you've got probably another top 10 all-time quarterback in Steve Young is in that mix. And Brock Purdy had more single season passing yards than both of them. So, I mean, from an efficiency standpoint, it wasn't close. There was no quarterback more efficient than Brock Purdy. And people are going to say, "Oh, it's the scheme." But then in the playoffs, when the scheme broke down, Brock Purdy made plays. He made plays. He couldn't make enough plays in the Super Bowl, but in the playoffs, he made plays and got the 49ers through. And if you don't want to admit that, then you weren't watching. You had already had your mind made up before the game started. So it really comes down to. But I liked what Emmanuel Sanders says, and we keep hearing this from player after player after player. It's just other fan bases that don't want to give Brock Purdy his credit, and obviously PFF that don't want to give Brock Purdy his credit. But you look at what Emmanuel Sanders said, and he said, he doesn't understand. This is a common thread amongst multiple players and former players. Nobody seems to understand why Brock Purdy is slandered so much or why people just don't want to, and I guess for a lack of a better term, crown him. And because the man, it wasn't just one season. He came in the middle at the tail end of another season, just stepped right in, and it was the same thing that we saw last year. He's incredibly consistent. And the consistency is just, I mean, it's part of why he's really good. But at a certain point, when usually when it's just a flash in the pan, a quarterback will come in, they'll play 2 or 3 good games, maybe 4, and then they'll start crashing down to earth. Brock Purdy hasn't done that. He's continued to make plays. Like, this isn't a guy that is handing the ball off 40 times a game and and only throwing the ball and dinking and ducking down the field. That's not what this guy's doing. He's got an incredibly accurate deep ball. There's just multiple skill sets that he's really good at, and it's just for them to rank him 13th. I thought was a little disrespectful, except until you think of it through the lens of clicks and views, and you'd realize that that's what it's about. That's what it's about. They don't believe he's the 13th best. PFF can say what they want. They need clicks and views too. They need people to subscribe too. They need people to start arguments about PFF. PFF ranked Purdy 13th. I told you he's not that good. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. And I just think it's kind of silly. I think it's kind of silly, but it is what it is. And I mean, I like that Emmanuel Sanders got out there and was like, he's talking to the team. And I rewatched that video. And I hopefully everybody got a chance to see that video from the playoffs. And Bosa walking up to Purdy after and I can't remember which game it was after, but he walks up to him and he says, "Did you have any idea that you were going to be this good?" And Purdy's sitting there looking at him. He says, "Man, it's wild. I don't understand it." He's having out of body experiences, and Bosa's telling him, "Man, he says it is amazing what you're doing," and it's what's going on, Dion? Appreciate you coming in, fam. Make sure that you check out my guy Dion Niner Gang podcast on his, and make sure you give him a like and a subscribe on his channel. Make sure you hit the bell for the notifications for his channel as well. I know he's doing some content with my other guy Brandon, Forever Faithful podcast. So make sure you check out my guys and give them both a follow on Twitter. But yeah, it's how many players and how many coaches, how many people have to say that Brock Purdy is the real deal for people to give him his credit? Does he have to do it just for one more season? Does he actually have to win the Super Bowl? That's my question. And absolutely, brother. We all fam. But you just wonder. It just makes you wonder when is that going to happen for him? And not that we care. I would rather him be the best kept secret for forever. And me just keep saying, "Hey, okay, he's just, yeah, you're right. Keep underestimating him." I hope the other teams feel like that about him too. I'll be real with you. I hope everybody's saying, "Oh, well, he's not going to be that good. We don't have to worry about Purdy this week. We got him." I hope they say that every single week as we just keep piling up wins. Because it's definitely, it's not just Kyle's scheme. If it was just Kyle's scheme, then Purdy would not have the most. He would not have had the most efficient season of any 49er quarterback ever, and one of the most efficient performances by any NFL quarterback for that matter. So we can talk about Kyle's scheme, but somebody has to run it at an optimal level, and that's what Purdy did. So I love the soundbite from Emmanuel Sanders. It was a great interview, but it wouldn't be a 49er show if we didn't mention Brandon Ayuk and what's going on with him. And the answer is absolutely nothing. We're not going to hear anything about Brandon Ayuk probably till training camp. I know that there was a couple of people putting out stuff saying that it was almost done. The deal was almost done. They were getting ready for it to be done. And I don't believe any of it until I see it, until I see the Schefters and the Dove Klymans and all the guys that break the news, Peliceros and all that. Like I won't believe it until I see it. So, but we're not going to hear anything about Brandon Ayuk anytime soon. I don't think. But oh, I didn't see Melissa. Is somebody posting stuff that I can't see? But Dion says he's dicing up defenses week in and week out, but he's not top 10. I don't. Yeah, I mean, it's silly. It's silly. That's why, and it's not real. I mean, real talk. Like if we're talking about football and just watching football and watching a guy just go back there, throw the ball around the yard. I mean, there's not many quarterbacks doing it better than Purdy. I don't care what the situation is because Jimmy G wasn't able to do it like him. Who else? Who all the other guys that did it before him? I guess the only guy that was able to even come close, really. I mean, I guess Matt Ryan did a little bit, but I don't think it was as efficient. So, from efficiency standpoint, I think Purdy was best. But exactly, I know Ayuk till probably mid-August, as usual, and we can be upset about it. We had a whole show about this on Tuesday with Beto and Dion was there, Brandon, and it's just an exercise in futility. Like that's really what it's about. It's we want it to happen, but this is what goes on every single season. So we just frustrate everybody frustrates themselves and kills the Niners for not doing things on their timeline. And all the 49ers ever do is pay their guys at the top of the market at the time and find ways to keep them paid and find ways to keep paying people. But and then people every single season, oh, they can't keep doing it. They can't keep paying everybody. The rubber's gonna meet the road at some point. They just can't do it. Like they're gonna have to get rid of a major amount of people. It's got to be next year. This guy's not going to be here. That guy's not going to be here. And then what happens? They somehow add on to the team. Now we lost Eric Armstead this past year, but that was I would say that's for a very good reason. And we give credence to a bunch of guys who can barely win a playoff game, but Brock has a better playoff record than most of the start. It's wild because Brock has only been in 2 playoffs and he's won 4 playoff games. He's gotten to the NFC Championship and he's won 5 playoff games, and and he's gotten to a Super Bowl and 2 NFC Championship games. There's quarterbacks out there right now that y'all are calling goats that can't get a playoff win, or if they get a playoff win, we want to blame everybody around them instead of blaming the quarterback. But then we don't want to give Brock any credit for him getting there. But then there's other quarterbacks that do it that we give all the credit when they get there. It's just a really weird dynamic, and people just like to confirm their biases a lot. But it is what it is. So with the Purdy rankings and all the other stuff, but him being ranked 13th and the 49ers officially being ranked number 1 in the power rankings, I thought was a little silly because usually the top quarterback, I'm surprised that they didn't rank the Chiefs number 1. I'll be perfectly honest, but I think even that was by design. Because 49er fans are going to come through and they're going to puff out their chest, start beating on their chest, and be like, oh, that's right, 49ers, Niner gang, all the other stuff. But we've been steadily getting our heads kicked in by the team that's probably really should be the number 1 team, and the team that just won the Super Bowl, and the team that just added more people. They finally got Pat Mahomes some weapons, be it not huge weapons, but they're more than what he had. And so they just, in my opinion, they just got better. They just drafted, I think, a really good offensive tackle in Kingsley Suamataia. I I just I'm not until we beat the Chiefs. I 49ers will be number 2 to me. And I hate saying this. I know the fans are going to crucify me for saying things like this, but that's because God forbid you should speak the real about your team, but I need to see the 49ers beat the Chiefs. I need to see it. Anybody else, and I mean anybody else in this league, and I mean you might put the Ravens on that list as well because we can't beat them either. I can't remember the last time the 49ers beat the Ravens. But it's but those specifically the Chiefs because we know the Ravens ain't going to be there when it comes time to be in the Super Bowl. I just don't see the Ravens ever making it. But we can't beat them. But like the Chiefs, that's the one team that's our boogeyman. And we have to look at this as a litmus test. We're going to play them again in the regular season this year, I believe. And we need a victory for the 49ers psyche. We talk about how we've broken other teams and how we've broken the Eagles, we've broken the Seahawks and the Rams and who was the other, the Cowboys. All these teams, the 49ers just manhandle. But they just have a mental block and people are going to blame Kyle, but Kyle didn't fumble on the 20. Kyle didn't have a funny bounce and muff a punt, and not that anybody really muffed it. I thought it was just dumb luck. But Kyle is not making those mistakes on the field, and so while Kyle could do better from a game management standpoint, it's also the 49ers just need to execute. They both things can be true, and the 49ers just need to execute. We've got all the Avengers, and those are the guys. Those are the guys making mistakes. CMC fumbling. Trent Williams. How many holding calls did Trent Williams have in the Super Bowl? I mean, it was people dropping balls. I mean, there's just a lot. It's a lot, and guys that we expect to perform in those big moments. And they have performed in those big moments against other teams. They just can't seem to do it against the Chiefs. And that's why I can't rank. I don't care about a power ranking. 49ers are number 2 until proven otherwise to me. And I would love to see them prove me wrong. But Deion says Cap ain't even in the league anymore, and he has a better playoff record than a lot of these guys in the game. And hey, the 49ers have a very good track record in the playoffs, and it's it's just good to be a 49er fan. I'll tell you that. And people sit there and say, "Oh, you guys can't win the Super Bowl, you can't win the big one." You know what? We're always going to be in the conversation. We're always going to be there, and we always have a chance. There is not. We got a chance this year. Like to me, the floor is the NFC Championship game. So we're gonna be in the mix. The 49ers are gonna be in the mix, barring injuries. But as other than that, they are going to be in the mix for the Super Bowl. So you can love it, you can hate it, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's like death and taxes. 49ers are coming. So it's so what's the next ranking? We got more rankings to talk about. And so position groups. So the 49ers were ranked number 1 running back room per PFF from what I saw. And I mean that kind of goes with I guess it doesn't go without saying. We have the best running back in the league in CMC in my opinion. I think the only thing that people had forgotten how potent CMC was because he had a couple of seasons of just lingering tick nicky knack injuries when he was on the Panthers. And now that they have found a way to keep him healthy, which I don't understand how he stayed healthy because they just run him into the ground. But you've got CMC, you got the best dual threat in the league, bar none. There is no other person that even comes close to him in versatility and what he means to the team, what he means to the team. So you've got CMC right there off the bat. The other two can barely even get on the field. You got Elijah Mitchell, who has proven that he's very good. He's a very good running back. Runs really hard, physical guy, but at the same time, he can't stay healthy. You breathe on him in practice, and he's hurt. You know, I mean, and from what I saw today, like he's on a list of him and the third running back are both on put on a rank. They're one of the top ranked trade targets for the 49ers because the 49ers drafted another couple of running, or they drafted a running back and then they got another guy undrafted. But I don't think the undrafted guy is going to make it. I know that's not a popular take. Everybody wants that guy to make it, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I think Kyle knows what he's got in Elijah Mitchell. He's got to make a decision on whether he thinks Elijah can stay through the season. Is it a better bet to work what's his name? What is his name? Isaac Garindo. I think that they're going to try and work Isaac Garindo in there, but don't be surprised if Isaac Garindo is literally just a special teamer and just doing kickoffs and that kind of stuff. That wouldn't surprise me either. But if that's the case, and they try to keep Elijah Mitchell on the squad, I wouldn't be mad at it. But I think they need somebody more dependable at the number 2 spot, just because CMC needs a breather. You just re-upped him. You got to protect the investment, and he can be just as like valuable with five to six less carries, in my opinion. And I think honestly, it could make him more valuable because those 5 or 6 carries with the two guys that they have been back of him in Elijah Mitchell and Jordan Mason, those are two thumpers. And they go in there with bad intentions. So that's loosening up the defense for then CMC coming through, hitting the hole, and then breaking tackles and knocking guys to the ground, and we're just running by guys. And then going out and pass in pass sets and just carving up underneath. So to me, it's a foregone. It's easy to say. I don't think anybody cares about the running back rooms, so they just let the 49ers have it. But the running back room easily is 49ers all day, twice on Sundays. And Dion says the running back range big. Yeah, and I mean it's almost got to because the other guys barely got touches. But I think that Elijah Mitchell had a 900-yard season. He would have been a 1,000-yard back if he could have stayed healthy. And then Jordan Mason, he could probably be 1,000-yard. He could probably be a 1,000-yard back if he was just given touches. The man averages almost 6 yards a carry for his career. So, and that's with 11-man boxes. When they know you're going to run it, and you still run it anyway, and you still get 5 to 6 yards. Jordan Mason is a beast. I know that they say he can't block. He can't block in pass pro. Okay. And he runs the wrong route sometimes. Okay. But the man can run the ball. So figure it out. Figure out a way to get that man the ball in his hands. Period. And Deion's, I don't think that Garindo's going to get a lot of carries per se. I think he's going to end up on special teams, and I think he's gonna cut his teeth on special teams while he learns the 49ers running style. And I think he's more of a project than people are willing to, even myself. I really wanted them to draft him, and I think that he could be good. And but I think that it's gonna take him some time to get it. And but I think he could, if he's as smart as everybody's making him out to be, I think that he definitely could get it. So, and yeah, that's the main question. Is Kyle is smart enough to protect CMC and spell him out? Is he? Probably not. I mean, I think he's going to say that in the beginning, and he's probably going to give some guys, sprinkle some carries in here and there, but let Elijah Mitchell go down. And then he's going to go right back to CMC 30 times a game. And even when Elijah Mitchell, if he gets back healthy, he's going to stay riding CMC till the wheels fall off, because he's not going to give Mason carries. Even though Mason has reportedly been looking better in catching passes and running routes, it won't matter. It won't matter. Kyle just does not trust that guy. That guy when the sparks start flying. So absolutely, yeah, I get it. But so yeah, running back room, obviously that's going to be 49ers just off of CMC, and I still think that they have talent behind him, but we'll never see it. Nobody will ever get a chance to see it. So, but then the receivers was still ranked best position group, one of the best position groups in the league, and I think it goes without saying. I think that Ayuk is a very, I don't want to say underrated, because I think a lot of people out there think that he's really good. But they don't think that he could do it if he didn't have all those guys around him, which is still up for debate. What would happen if he was bracketed? What would happen if he had to go against double coverage? What would happen if he was the guy? And but you also have to think about what would happen if they moved him around the formation. What would happen if Purdy was allowed to put him in motion? What would happen if you've just found ways to get him the ball and create in some more creative ways? Because right now they just stick him at X and just leave him there, and he's got to break off whoever's in front of him. But he's not going to get double teamed because he's got Debo on the other side, and he's got Kittle. So, but the fact that you've got Debo, who is turned into his rookie year, he was a wide receiver. Debo was a wide receiver. They were calling him Slant God, and he was just a master at running slant routes. But he could catch some deep ends, and he could catch some crossing routes, and even some stretch the field stuff he wasn't bad at. But they just stopped doing it. And once the wide back stuff started, I mean, they just cut that. Debo now runs like two routes, and that's it. But and that's where I think Kyle needs to get a little bit more creative in moving these guys around, switching their roles from time to time, putting them in motion, all the things that could that they're just an embarrassment. There's too many good players on in that wide receiver room and tight ends for you to be running the same things over and over and over again and letting teams key in on what you're doing. There should be never a chance in hell that another team should be knowing who you're going to or where you're going with the great players, with all the good receivers that the 49ers have. You should be throwing constant change up after change up after change up after change up. It should be almost a different player every single down. There shouldn't be feeding and feeding and feeding any one player, in my opinion. But that's what we do. Kyle picks like two people for the game, and they're just going to get the ball over and over and over again. But yeah, you and me both. I've been saying this for a year and a half now. Like since Purdy started, I mean, I would like to see Purdy get a little bit more autonomy, be able to call, and not that he can't audible out. I think that he gets a chance to audible out sometimes, but I think the issue for him is that he's not allowed to motion people out, like call like the hot route, like changing the route. Like that's the thing, because Kyle's not going to let you mess with his design. That's not going to happen. And his thing is that there's always an answer in every play call, and you just have to find the answer. But that's not football. And that's really what kills you when you're going up against these better teams. Is because if you're just trusting in the scheme, they're gonna key in on your scheme. Especially when you're keying on one or two players and not using the plethora of weapons that you have on the field. There should never be a time when Kittle has one catch. There should never be a time when Ayuk only gets one target. There should be never a time when CMC doesn't get a couple of catches. It just should be a constant flow. Everybody, I would like to see Kittle get 3 catches, Debo get 4 catches, Ayuk get 6, and then maybe you sprinkle in 1 or 2 with Jennings and a couple of the other guys on a consistent basis. Nobody on this squad, in my opinion, should get into the 10 and 12 target range. That shouldn't happen. In my opinion, there's really no reason for it to happen. But hey, I don't know. I'm just a podcast guy, and uh, a podcast guy that is thoroughly frustrated with constantly seeing the same things and the same issues over and over and over again. And then we're going to talk about rankings and how good this guy. Yeah, because we're talking about regular season right now. So yeah, regular season, wide receiver room, best receiver room in the league. Regular season, I mean, CMC is the best running back in the league. But then we move on to D line, which I don't understand how you call this D line the number one, or they called him number 2. I think they called him number 2. They changed because I saw somebody say that they were number 1, but then somebody else said they were number 2 on PFF's list behind the Jets. Which even then, I think that this D line is very good. I think they're going to be really good. I think that Floyd is going to be an epiphany on the other side of Bosa. I think that Gross Matos is going to be a step up from Cleveland Farrell. Um, I think that the defensive tackles are actually going to get a bump up from a consistency standpoint because Eric Armstead can't stay healthy. So in that respect, I think that they're going to be very good. I think that they're going to be actually a little bit underrated. The only thing that makes me kind of iffy is how bad. What is his name? Is how bad. What is his name? Where is he? Is how bad Hargrave looked towards the end of the season. I mean, he looked really bad against the run, and then at a certain point, he was giving us no pass rush whatsoever. So I've got to see something. Now they say that he's looked really good in workouts and all that kind of stuff, but that's workouts, and that's another thing. That's another thing. And I might be sounding negative today, but oh, what's going on, Bebop? Appreciate you coming through, fam. Happy 4th of July weekend. Yeah, we celebrating all weekend long. Appreciate you coming through. And but that's another thing that I want to mention. If I have to watch another Debo workout video. Does nobody remember last season? He was doing the exact same thing. All the workout videos. Oh, he's in the lab. He's grinding. Debo's grind. Big Debo season loading. All of that. And then same thing happened the year before. He did a little bit better than the year before. But it still wasn't what he did in 21. And I think the wide back stuff is played out. Everybody seems to think that Debo's going to have a resurgent season. He's going to have a huge season. Okay, I'll believe it when I see it. I just think the wide back stuff is played out, and they need to move on and make him. And he needs to go back to being a receiver. And I think that's why Pearsall and the rest of these guys that they brought in are going to be so important going forward. Not this season, but going forward, is because they've got to replace they're not replacing Debo. They're like they need to replace the production of Debo, which I think can be done, and it'll just look different. And people think of Debo like he's this untouchable force, and I don't know, man. He don't give the same effort as you to me. He don't block. He don't block, which is really kind of weird. That you expect Kyle expects his other wide receivers. They have to be on point. They have to be perfect at everything. But Debo doesn't have the same restrictions, and like that's not. I would say that that's not fair, and I think that that's why some of there is some kind of discourse. I think that the one wide receiver who was it. Oh, man, I'm trying to remember what that guy's name was. But the guy that left, he was complaining about not getting touches. But I think that was part of it. Watching Debo not have to do the same things that everybody else was required to do. If Ayuk wasn't blocking, missed blocks on a regular basis, if he half-assed routes on a regular basis, would Kyle feel the same way about him that he does Debo? I still don't think he feels the same way about Ayuk that he does about Debo. Because Ayuk is an actual receiver, and Debo has been able to just take over games just from behind the line of scrimmage off of like a 2-yard in. And well, what's going on, Roberto? I appreciate you coming through, fam. Ayuk, here you go. Yeah. We need to get that guy. Just, I mean, I don't care what Kyle feels about it. He needs to get Ayuk in here. That is Purdy's future right there. But yeah, I still think that the 49ers receiving room is top tier. I don't know who would have a better wide receiver room than them. You might say Seattle. Trying to think who else. I mean, who else? But the thing about the 49ers wide receiver room more than anything is really just they're all different pieces to the puzzle, and they all have different strengths, and they just all do a different job. And I think that's what makes them so potent, is that whatever you need that game, they're capable. They've just got to be put in the position to do it. And that's really what it's all about. But and then who is next? So we talked about D-line. Yeah, the D-line. I think that the D-line gets a bad rap sometimes because they don't get home as much as they used to, but they're one of the highest ranked in D-lines in pressures, and people are like, "Oh, well, they just can't get home." But, pressures matter. And I think that the Rams redid their scheme just for the 49ers D-line. People can say what they want, but that was what made Wilk's system so maddening, is he kept sticking guys so far off the line that it was letting teams play quick game all the time. And I felt like if they had just left their cornerbacks there to play some press man, we would have had more sacks. The 49ers would have had more sacks. I think they could have gotten home if given an opportunity, but I think a bunch of teams they let teams off the hook by playing off coverage so much that it gave teams were able to play quick game all day on the 49ers. And that just tires out your defensive line eventually. But I plan on them, and I know a lot of people are not sold on Sorensen yet because it's not popular yet. Just wait until the season starts and it starts looking like it used to, and then everybody's gonna be jumping right back on the bandwagon and saying, "Oh yeah, so we knew the whole time. This is all we needed. Wilkes who, all of that, like it's all coming." But then you got the linebackers. So 49ers ranking having the number one. And this is if Greenlaw is in the lineup. Of course, they have the number one linebacking group. They've got the best linebacker in the league in Fred Warner. And Greenlaw, in my mind, is grossly underrated. I don't understand. That man is a human missile, and he's a tone setter. He is a tone setter. He allows Fred to do all the things that Fred does. They are such a good tandem that it's criminal that he's not put in the mentions with the other great linebackers in the league, because I think he is truly the Navarro Bowman to Warner's Patrick Willis, because people don't remember, but Navarro Bowman wasn't given, even though he was the leading tackler on the team, people still talked about Patrick Willis more than they talked about Navarro Bowman. And I feel like that's really what Greenlaw is going through. But Roberto says, "Do you think he would have got his money by now if it wasn't for the big contracts given out this offseason for why?" I don't think he would have got his money until August, late July, regardless. The 49ers have their timeline. They said it at the beginning of the offseason. They said they have their timeline. They're going to get it done when they get it done. And that's just the way it is. We got to wait. We've got to wait. And we knew we were going to have to wait, which is the funny part about it. Everybody knew because it happens every year. So, I mean, I hate to keep beating a dead horse, but that's the reality of the situation. He's not going to get paid until training camp. He's not going to be. They're not going to treat him any more special than they treated Bosa. They're not going to treat him any more special than they treated Kittle. They're not going to treat him any. He's not as more special than Fred Warner. He's not more special than Debo. Like, as far as from how he's looked upon by the team, in my opinion, I don't think he's any more special than any of those guys. They're not going to treat him special. Or Trent Williams, for that matter. Even Trent Williams had to wait. So if you think it's going to be different for him, you're not paying attention. We just got to realize that that's the way the 49ers do business, and people can call them stupid and they can call them all kinds of things for not getting it done sooner, and that they're going to have to pay an extra an extra $4 million or whatever it is that they're going to have to pay him. But the reality is they make their guys, they all consistently make their guys the top paid players at their position every single season, and for at least a year or two, those players are considered the top paid players at their position. So that comes with a little bit of status, and that gives you a little bit more in the locker room culture, whether you like it or not. Because guess what else goes up the whole time? The salary cap goes up. And people never take this into account. The money's always going to run out. Okay, well, by the time these contracts get, everybody thinks that they're going to be too expensive for them to pay, they restructure them, they kick the can down the road, and then the salary cap has gone up to make it negligible, or it keeps them just at the line, and they're still able to add pieces. So you just got to trust in the organization. I think they've done enough to garner our trust. I think they've done enough to garner the 49er fans' trust, and we should just be patient, and it's gonna happen. That's the way. This is the way negotiations work. If you've never been a part of a negotiation, then let me assure you, this is what it is. You just gotta wait. And Roberto says he bet he's hot right now. Only is he not getting paid, but we went and got a guy in the draft exactly like him. You know, he not exactly like him. He can run. He runs nice, crisp routes, but Ayuk has physical traits that Ricky Pearsall does not. Uh, I think that Brandon Ayuk is faster than him. I think that he's got tremendously longer arms than him, and bigger hands. All that. Like I think that he's a first round. He is a bona fide first round wide receiver, and I don't think Pearsall really was. He should have been. I think he should have been a second round guy. Now, the 49ers win. We're not going to get back into that conversation, but he it is what it is. But I look at, and of course Brandon Ayuk is hot because this is the thing. If he would have just left it to his agent and just chilled out and waited till it was done, it wouldn't have been a big deal. But he had to stick his nose in. He had to get involved. He had to bring his boy to a meeting with the team, and all thinking that gives him leverage. Let me let everybody in on something because he's trying to fool people into thinking that he got leverage. That's a way for him to gain leverage. That didn't gain him anything. It didn't do anything. He has zero. He has zero leverage. That do you think? Like, does that change the fact that the team has him on a 5th-year option? He's signed to the team for the next year. I mean, if he holds out, he's missing game checks. So he's not going to get paid. And he's supposed to get paid, what, 14 mil this year, which is a pretty nice chunk of change. So not only is he not going to get paid, then guess what? They could franchise you next year if they really wanted to, which I don't think the 49ers will. I don't think that they're that type of organization. They don't. I think that they probably would trade him at that point if they couldn't get something done by the end of the season. But I don't think it's going to come to that. He's going to get signed. But it's all about leverage. And the fact is that they have that in the back. Not that they're going to use it. They're not, because I don't think it's ever going to come to that. But that is leverage. When they can hold your money, that's leverage. What Ayuk putting stuff in social media and bringing his boy to the meetings, trying to act like he could go to Washington or Pittsburgh, or that's even an option. That's not leverage. That's posturing. That's posturing. What the 49ers have is leverage. So, and I am pro player. I'm about get your money. Get your money if you can. But I'm a realist as well. And the reality is of the situation is that if you look at the situation, the 49ers have all the leverage and Ayuk is eventually, and they're trying to do right by him. I really do believe that. They are trying to do right by him. He is going to get a very lucrative deal. And people are still going to make it seem like there's a winner and a loser in this. But the reality is everybody's going to win because the 49ers are going to have their Brandon Ayuk, and then and Brandon Ayuk is going to have a crap ton of money from the 49ers. And he's going to get to play where he wants to play, like he's said multiple times. So, is there any other? Oh, they said they did rank the secondary. I think they ranked the secondary second overall. PFF did, which I've been telling people. This one I do buy into because I've been telling people watch out for this secondary group. If If Huff can stay healthy, if Huff is healthy at the beginning of this season, and watch out for this secondary because they are going to give this defensive line time to get to the quarterback. This is the deepest I've seen this cornerback group, and yeah, they got some dogs on the squad, and it, I I don't think that it's going to be close. I think this is those really all time great secondaries if they can stay healthy. That's the vibe I get. That's the vibe I get from these guys, and so yeah, that's and then we got to talk about one more ranking because there's one more ranking that everybody that everybody is really not talking about, but they are talking about, and nobody wants to recognize it. But the 49ers offensive line was ranked 25th, I believe, by PFF. Um, is that a surprise to anyone? Is that really a surprise to anyone? And if anybody is mad at that ranking, like you shouldn't be. It's pretty much in line. The this we have Trent Williams. What did shout out to Williamson from Peacock and Williamson their show? They he calls him Trent Williams and the Pips. So yeah, that's really what it is. Aaron Banks isn't bad. I think he was dealing with some injuries last season, but he's not a bad lineman. But he's not a world beater. I think Brendel is serviceable, and then I think Feliciano is okay. I really honestly don't like that he's on the team. Like after what he said about Burford in the offseason, I think that was bush league. But I digress. He's here, and he's probably the best offensive lineman not named Trent Williams. So far be it for me to get involved in that. And then you've got McKivitz, who's just a dumpster fire, in my opinion. It's always going to be he's a walking pylon. He's a walking pylon that isn't going to give you really anything other than get in the way, like literally making guys run around. So, and the 49ers once again did nothing to address this group for this year. Not even, and honestly, I mean, if you want to look at Pooney, but the reality is Aaron Banks, I believe, is up for contract next year. Do you think they're going to pay him? Because that's another maybe they pay him, but they're not going to pay him a ridiculous amount of money. And if he demands a nice chunk of change, if he has a good season this season, he's gone. He's gone. He is not getting paid by the 49ers. So Pooney might be for that left guard spot. And at the least, you're gonna need him somewhere. He's gonna be one of these guys. He's gonna take over for one of these guys, and then what do you do for center? Do you just throw Feliciano there, but just still have no tackle? You still have no right tackle. You still have no tackle to eventually replace Trent Williams. There's got to be somebody in the pipeline. And if I hear Kyle and them say that what is his name, Jalen Moore is talented, I'm going to throw up in my mouth, like for real. So yeah, the offensive line is ranked exactly where it should be. Those guys are literally pieces that Kyle just wants them to be in the right spot so that they can give Purdy 2 seconds exactly. Purdy's got to figure it out in 2 seconds. That's it. And when the playoffs hit, we're going to be in the same spot that we were this past season. Is Purdy running for his life, and hopefully he's able to call the protections, and hopefully that's part of his maturation process to where he can see that this guy is not going to hold up in front of me. So I just need to be ready. The rush is coming from there. At least he needs to know that he has a garbage line in front of him. and I shouldn't even call them garbage because they're not. I wouldn't call them garbage, but but pass protection wise, if the play doesn't go exactly as designed, and he has to run around, there is no protection. There's nobody protecting him. It is what it is. So, but with all that being said, all these rankings, all these rankings that we talked about today, what do they mean in the grand scheme of things? The fact of the matter is the 49ers are going to win a lot of football games this coming season. I picked them to win 12 games. I do all this complaining and talking bad about this player or that player, but the reality is the 49ers have an outstanding roster overall. And even though they have the 25th ranked offensive line that is well deserved, they have the best wide receiver group. They have at least the top 2 or 3 wide receiver group in the league. They have the best running back room in the league. They have the best linebacker group in the league. They have a top 5 defensive line. They have I think a top 2 secondary this season, and I think they have I think that they have at least a top 10 ranked quarterback. And so those are all the only rankings that I care about. And that's going to get them through the regular season. When the playoffs hit, different story. We'll see what they're going up against in the playoffs. But I still think that the NFC Championship game is the floor for this squad. It will be a massive disappointment if they don't get to the NFC Championship game, in my opinion. But with that being said, I am gonna get out of here. I'm at about an hour, but yeah, appreciate everybody coming out. Appreciate everybody watching. Make sure you give the video a like. Make sure that you give it a subscribe. Make sure that you hit the bell so you get the notifications for when I go live. Once again, we're on Twitter. We are on Twitch. We are on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, where you're watching, and pretty soon I think I'm going to go on Kick as well. I don't know what Kick is about yet, but we're going to find out. And if you don't like looking at my face, which I don't blame you, you can always go to, and you can catch the audio version on wherever you get your audio podcasts. So there is no excuse. I don't care where you get it, just get it. And make sure that you tell a friend to tell a friend so we can be friends every day, every week. But I will be back next Tuesday with Beto and the guys. So next Tuesday, same time, 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. Make sure that you check us out. Make sure that you give all my guys follows. Make sure thanks to Roberto for coming in. Bebop is a pleasure always. And oh yeah, Dion, appreciate you coming through, fam. And Jason Captain Niner, appreciate you coming through and getting busy in the chat. So thank you guys for coming in. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for, hey, we're all family. So everybody, I hope that you have a great rest of your 4th of July weekend. Enjoy it with your family. Enjoy it with all the people you love. And with that being said, we gonna get out. And as always, go Niners.